All right, listeners, get ready for a seriously delicious deep dive.
Yeah.
We had a fascinating request to explore Black Nika Clear and its connection to Japanese junk food.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. I was a little surprised at first, too. Whiskey and ramen. Yakitori. But after looking into it, it makes sense.
I was totally skeptical, too.
Yeah.
Like, whiskey and ramen. Seriously. But, hey, that's what these deep dives are for, right? Challenging our assumptions.
Absolutely. And let's be honest. Who doesn't love a good bowl of ramen or some tasty yakitori?
Okay, so for those who haven't had the pleasure, what exactly is Black Nika Clear? What makes it so special in the world of whiskey?
Well, first off, it's clear.
Right.
Which might throw some people off, right? When you think whiskey, you usually picture that amber color.
Yeah, for sure. I was picturing like a smoky, oaky single malt, something you sit by a fireplace, you know?
Right, exactly. But Black Nika Clear is intentionally crafted to be lighter and smoother. It's actually made with non-peated malt, so you don't get that strong, smoky flavor that some people find overpowering.
Okay, that explains the clear part. But what does that mean for the taste? What are we actually getting when we sip Black Nika Clear?
Think delicate fruitiness, subtle hints of spice, and a touch of sweetness. It's all very well balanced.
So it's not as intense as a peaty scotch. Not as in your face.
Exactly. It's more about subtle complexity.
Yeah.
The flavors are layered, but they don't overpower each other.
I can kind of see how that might work with food. It wouldn't compete with bold flavors.
Exactly. And that's where the connection to Japanese cuisine comes in. Especially junk food, right?
Junk food. Okay, now I'm really curious. How does a refined whiskey like this pair with, like, ramen?
Well, think about it. Japanese junk food, like ramen, is packed with flavor, sometimes really intense flavor. And Black Nika Clear, with its smoothness and subtle nuances, actually enhances those flavors without clashing or being overwhelmed.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not about the whiskey being the star of the show. It's about how it plays with the other flavors.
Absolutely. It's like a culinary dance, the whiskey and the food working together in harmony.
Okay, I'm sold on the concept. But ramen comes in so many varieties. Where do we even start with Black Nika Clear pairings?
Let's start with a classic, tonkatsu ramen. That rich, porky broth is, well, it can be pretty intense, right?
Intense is an understatement sometimes. Delicious, but definitely intense.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine sipping a Black Nika highball alongside a steaming bowl of tonkatsu.
A highball. So we're talking whiskey, soda water, and a squeeze of lemon.
Yeah, simple but so effective. The carbonation cuts through the richness of the broth like a palate cleanser between each bite.
Oh, I see. So it's like that feeling when you take a sip of soda after something greasy and it kind of resets your taste buds?
Exactly. And the subtle sweetness of Black Nika Clear complements the salty, savory broth. It's like they were made for each other.
Okay, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. But, you know, not all ramen is about richness. Some bowls are pure fire, like melt-your-face-off spice. Can Black Nika Clear handle that kind of heat?
It can. And that's what makes this whole pairing idea so fascinating. One of our sources highlighted Hokyoku ramen, known for its numbing spice.
Oh, Hokyoku. Yeah, that's some serious heat. I'd be reaching for a glass of milk, not whiskey.
And that's where things get unexpected. The recommendation is actually Black Nika Clear on the rocks.
Really? On the rocks? I would have thought it would make the spice even worse.
It seems counterintuitive, but the slight chill actually helps to tame the heat. Plus, those subtle smoky notes in the whiskey actually complement the chili pepper flavor.
So it's not about extinguishing the fire. It's about enhancing it in a way that's enjoyable.
Precisely. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Black Nika Clear's versatility goes beyond ramen. We've also got some intriguing yakitori and gyoza pairings to dive into.
Okay, bring on the skewers and dumplings. I'm ready for more.
Speaking of smoky flavors, yakitori is another great pairing for Black Nika Clear. Those skewers, grilled over benchatan charcoal, have so much depth, you know, from the savory meats to the glazes. It's amazing.
Oh, I love yakitori, the whole experience. The chef's grilling each skewer. But I usually think of beer with yakitori. Ice-cold beer. How does Black Nika Clear fit in?
Well, remember how we talked about the smoothness of Black Nika Clear and those subtle smoky notes? Those actually work really well with the char and smokiness from the yakitori grill. And for this pairing, we're back to the highball.
The highball, all right. Seems like it's a good all-arounder. But isn't yakitori a bit, well, lighter than something like a rich ramen broth?
True, yakitori can be leaner, but it still has richness from the char and the glazes. And let's not forget, you usually get a variety of skewers, right? Chicken, pork belly, maybe some meatballs with tear sauce.
Yeah, so many different flavors. The highball helps to keep things balanced then, like a refresh between each skewer.
Exactly. You hit the reset button, so to speak, and Black Nika Clear doesn't get lost in the mix. That little bit of sweetness works with the savory elements, and the smoky notes from the whiskey play off the smokiness from the grill.
Now I'm seriously craving yakitori.
Mmm.
But before we move on, can I ask, we've been talking about Black Nika Clear with what some people might call junk food, right? Isn't that kind of strange for our nice whiskey?
That's what I love about Black Nika Clear. It breaks down those ideas we have about whiskey. It doesn't have to be so stuffy, It can be enjoyed with everyday food that brings you pleasure.
Yeah, like good whiskey doesn't have to be saved for some fancy occasion.
Exactly. It's about enjoying those simple pleasures. And it also helps people who might be new to whiskey feel more comfortable. It's not as intimidating as a super peaty scotch.
It's like the welcoming committee of whiskey.
Come on in, have a sip, relax.
I like that, the welcoming committee. And even though it's approachable, it's still complex. You still get those layers of flavor, the smokiness, the fruitiness.
Yeah, I'm all for breaking down whiskey burials. But we can't forget about gyoza. Those dumplings are calling my name. How does Black Nika Clear work with gyoza? Gyoza is a little different. For those crispy, savory dumplings, we recommend trying Black Nika Clear neat. Or maybe with one ice cube if you like it a bit chilled.
Whoa, neat. No highball this time. Why the change?
It's all about texture here. Sipping Black Nika Clear neat lets you experience that smooth, almost velvety texture, and it plays off the crispy gyoza wrapper and the soft filling.
I see. The smooth whiskey against the different textures of the gyoza. Makes sense. But what about the flavors?
Those smoky notes we keep talking about, they really come through with gyoza. They enhance the savory flavors of the filling, whether it's pork or veggies or shrimp. It adds another dimension to the whole experience.
So each part of the pairing is doing something specific. It's like they're all working together to create something even better.
That's it. It's about that harmony between the food and the drink.
This whole deep dive has been eye-opening. Black Nika Clear and Japanese junk food. Who knew? But before we wrap things up, there's one more point from our research that I want to touch on. It's the idea that these pairings encourage mindful eating, paying attention to the experience.
That's so important when you slow down and really savor the flavors, the textures, how the whiskey interacts with the food. You're really present in the moment, engaging all your senses.
Yeah, it's the opposite of just mindlessly shoveling food in your mouth. You actually appreciate everything so much more.
And I think Black Nika Clear represents that mindful enjoyment. It's not about being pretentious. It's about finding pleasure in the simple things. Whether it's ramen, yakitori, gyoza, it's about enjoying those everyday moments.
So let's recap what we've learned about Black Nika Clear and why it's such a unique whiskey. Okay, so we've explored these surprising pairings. What makes Black Nika Clear so special, so different from, a typical scotch or bourbon?
It really comes down to approachability. It's a whiskey that welcomes everyone, Whether you're a seasoned whiskey drinker or just starting out, Black Nika Clear is like, hey, come on in, let's have some fun.
Yeah, it's like that friend who's always up for anything, doesn't take itself too seriously.
Right. But it doesn't sacrifice quality. We've talked about the subtle smokiness, the fruitiness, that smooth texture. It's a well-crafted whiskey no matter how you drink it.
And that versatility is key. It can be enjoyed neat, on the rocks, in a highball. And with so many different foods, who would have thought ramen and whiskey could be such a good match?
It's all about breaking down those preconceived notions.
Yeah.
Whiskey doesn't have to be this formal, special occasion drink. It can be part of everyday enjoyment.
And I think that's what I've learned most from this deep dive. It's about being mindful, savoring those everyday moments. Whether it's a bowl of ramen after a long day or a plate of yakitori with friends, Black Nika Clear just elevates the experience.
It's about being present, Paying attention to the flavors, the textures, the way the whiskey interacts with the food.
So for anyone listening who's still on the fence about whiskey and junk food, what would you say to encourage them to give it a shot?
Don't knock it till you try it. Pick your favorite ramen or grab some gyoza and pour yourself a glass of Black Nika Clear. Experiment. You might be surprised at what you discover.
Yeah. Trust your taste buds. And don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Okay.
Maybe you love spicy curry or okonomiyaki. See how Black Nika Clear plays with those flavors.
Exactly. This is all about exploration and finding what you enjoy. And hey, if you stumble upon a killer pairing, let us know.
Cheers to breaking down barriers and embracing those everyday moments of pleasure.
Cheers to Black Nika Clear, the whiskey for any occasion.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, happy sipping and slurping.